thinking about how we're looking at the transition from university, taking that creativity out into the workplace, and so that you don't think I'm not letting the ladies go first. We talked in the back, allowing Chris to actually answer this question first, which is going to be thinking about how their respective works really and creative processes translate into the workplace today. I guess the question I would have for them is thinking about whether they see a specific role that really exists out there for them, or if they feel like they need to forge a new career path in some ways for them. So, Chris?
Well, I actually straight away went straight into working for an architecture firm and hated it, in all honesty. I suppose I kind of class myself more as a freelance procrastinator who is creative at a variety of things. So for me, it's quite specific of trying to find something that I can fit into, because I don't feel that I can fit into just doing standard things, how I work. I'm heavily dyslexic and I get notoriously bored really easily. So I have to do things that kind of make me chuckle. So I'm always trying to find things that interest me and excite me. And so for me, I'm very specific on trying to find things that I will enjoy. So freelance-wise, I try and focus on things that excite me. But then obviously you have to make money to kind of live. So I do the mundane stuff as well.
Rosie, do you want to pick up on that and translate your own work into the workplace?
Well, I think certain aspects of what I do can relate in job roles. Like if you know certain softwares, then you know that you can, like the Adobe Creative Suites, and you can get in that way. But I don't feel what I do can be a specific role, just aspects of it really. And so I try and pick up on that to fit into job roles.
Leor, obviously your work is sort of looking at the status quo and sort of rethinking that a bit. I was in your very early days now, but is there something that you see out there that is a specific role for you, or are you sort of...
I actually have a bit more hope because of the speakers today. I kind of see myself a bit more making it work now. But I've just spent a year doing crazy research, like dressing up as a superhero for 2 months around campus. So I don't really see myself getting paid for doing that, but hopefully maybe on shorter time scales. But ultimately, I want to make the world a better place, and I'm going to do that however I can, and I'm going to adapt to whatever job. I'm quite open-minded. But ultimately, I think maybe in time, like I see like the trends that are happening now, I think maybe in like 10 or 20 years, maybe we'll get what we want. So I'm kind of prepared to wait and build my experience and then hopefully start my own thing and employ younger people than me and, live my dream. Yeah. Did that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It all makes sense up here on stage. Nadine.
Well, I'm a maker, basically, and, I was making birthday cards for my mum at 5 years old. I was making fancy dress costumes when I was a teenager. Then I went to university and did a course in making, and now I expect to do no less than that. I want to make for a career. The most recent one that I found that seems quite right is a props maker. So whether it involves set and costume as well, I'm not sure. But that's what I'm going to do, and I don't really want to settle for any less.
Alex, so question that I have for you, and then I'll turn it back to you guys, is essentially thinking about there's a new skill set that sort of is necessary to work within the creative industry these days, and sort of judging by the range of individuals that are now on ArtsThread, what do you see as those sort of essential skills that people are taking into the workforce nowadays? And then I'll follow up, and I'm curious to know how you guys feel your education sort of has prepared you for that. So
yeah, I think it's things have changed a hell of a lot since my graduation in '93. I think that it's absolutely essential that every creative person, whether it be a ceramicist or a textile designer or a fine artist, really should be embracing the digital factor. That goes without saying, because anyone creative they have to market themselves. Whether it be gaining employment or setting their own business, it's essential. So what we're doing and what we're trying to do, and it's going to happen in the next few weeks hopefully, And we're going to have online courses to learn like HTML5 and there's a lot of people that even studying visual communication, graphics that think, oh well, no, I do the aesthetics of a website and I don't do the coding. Well, they're going to find it bloody difficult because companies don't really want to employ two people at the same time if they can. They can get someone who's a bit of an all-rounder. It makes them far better. It makes economic sense to have somebody who can do like an Ian Botham type, an all-rounder. Because I think that's something that is actually really important to mention, which I didn't even think about until I mentioned it, is that in this current climate where money is a bit tight, if you have somebody who has got the right attitude and hardworking, but has also got 2 or 3 skills that can be moving in the right direction, it's fantastic. And I think it's the Adobe Suite that's so important no matter what you are creatively.
Well, so
I did Adobe Suite.
yeah, so I would say, I mean, along those lines, you mentioned sort of the branding of yourselves, obviously, and getting your work out there, getting noticed is one thing, and then I guess the other thing is those just sort of nuts and bolts tools. And based on the education that you guys have had, do you feel that that is something that you're well prepared to sort of go out and do, or are you learning this sort of ad hoc? Are you guys teaching each other, et cetera, et cetera?
I think for me, one of the things that I was told like from quite an early age was never to be someone that walks around and looks at the floor. Because if you're looking at the floor, you can't actually see what's in front of you. So if I was on the stage and I was looking at the floor, I'd fall off the stage and, I don't know, break my leg or something. And I was always told to look up and actually notice things that are around you. And that was kind of a thing from family, so that's way before education. My father always said to me, look up and you'll start to appreciate what actually happens. With education-wise, I suppose my university, they were quite good at preparing you for that side of it. But I think that nothing prepares you until you actually go into the world and you start doing it yourself. With job interviews, I always would try and be myself and be quite honest about who I am. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I think you learn so much of it more when you're out of university.
Yeah, I agree with learning from others, and you graduate with a great group of other graduates and design creatives as well, and you learn from them and what they're doing as well. But also it depends whether you want to go it alone and create your own business, which you do have to learn yourself and with help from others, or you become part of a team, which is great as well. But it depends which route you want to take, I suppose. But there's always help there, I think.
So Leor, you've been marketing yourself as a superhero, and how's that translate onto a resume?
But no, I went through a kind of strange route. I studied for 2 years at Nottingham Trent, which was really kind of industry focused. So I feel like I know what the industry is about, in product design. But then I moved to Goldsmiths to see if I could contribute something which was more about thinking, like conceptual based, and I was questioning whether what I was doing was meaningful. So I feel like I've got kind of both sides. As for the superhero thing, what that was all about was to see what makes you happy, and I found out that being giving to other people makes me happy. So it was a research project. I'm sorry I didn't explain it properly before. But what I ended up designing was a toolkit which had a DVD explaining what well-being is conceptually and activity cards to try out and a guide about how to document what you're doing. So the idea is you document your happiness level every day and all the activities you're doing, and then at the end of a month you work out what it is that made you happy. So it wasn't quite speculative design like the other people at Goldsmiths, but it's not really that commercial because it's something which would have to be made in like low-scale production. So I'm kind of sitting on the edge. So I don't know how well it's going to translate into industry, but I'm hopeful. I'm going to try a few things first and build my experience and see if I can somehow take it to market, maybe in another form. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna move on. I'm curious. One of the things, obviously, the nature of the workplace is changing, and as sort of younger people are making their way through, the sort of traditional structure of the way offices are run and things have shifted in many ways. And I'm curious to get your guys' perspective on that sort of ideal workplace that, what are the things that you expect from the job that you have? Obviously, a paycheck is important, but I think of things like transparency, openness, being able to sort of explore your own ideas and have those listened to. Rosie, maybe you can, or excuse me, Nadine, maybe you can start off and give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of links in with the last question in that university was massively about experimenting and pushing boundaries and learning skills as well. Like, I'm a real skills obsessive. But then also like documenting all of it and making it useful to yourself, but also making it presentable in a way where you can communicate it to other people, whether they're your student peers or whether they're actually going to be your colleagues. So for me, I want to be able to work in surroundings where I can like continue that learning, keep learning those skills, and that's expected. It's not expected that you'll come in and know everything, but it's expected that you know how to learn, and that when you do learn, you can retain those skills and make them useful and applicable. So that's definitely an important one for me.
I think that's really interesting because I think that's one of the things that we're sort of seeing out there nowadays is that there's this drive that you don't necessarily just want to learn or understand what your specific role is, but you want to continually be growing as you're
Exactly, and just push it and be allowed to sort of to push it and see if you're any good at it, and you can always take a step back if it's not the right thing.
Leor, do you want to follow up?
I really couldn't have put it any better. I'm going to pass it on.
I totally agree. Yeah.
I think as a society, London definitely, young people are becoming, I suppose, office workers, so a coffee office worker. So you'll be in a coffee shop working away and basically being nomadic, trying to find yourself the best Wi-Fi and the best coffee and the best food and carrying on like that, which means you could end up being, traveling around to 5 or 6 different coffee shops through the day. And that's sort of looking at a lot of people that are sort of going alone at the moment because you can't, as young people, we can't afford a studio. There seems to be this trend that a lot of people are retiring and they've got the money to do what they want now, so they can go out and start their own companies, and it's becoming harder for young people to be able to do that. But I think because of that, it's meaning this quite interesting sort of moment where younger people who are coming out of university who really want to do things are actually pushing themselves further. So they're actually making this office place a proper studio and living there or really working really hard there, doing silly hours and then having a drink with their mates and taking their clients there. So I think there's a real sort of change in how it's been thought about, I think, at the moment.
So I guess what's interesting there is it sounds like, and also picking up on what Nadine mentioned as well, that you almost want to feel like there's an investment from the employer in you, not only as someone who's going to be going in and doing an actual job, but they're helping further you in your career in some ways. So as we're sort of running short on time, I think since we're turning this and looking at this from the perspective of the young creative, I think the last question I'm going to ask is to get their perspective on, I'm sure there's a lot of employers out here, people in a position to hire these folks into their own company, and I'd like to get their advice on what an employer should be doing to find and really keep individuals like them retained and happy within their organizations.
I've got a good answer. Look an arts thread.
That was the whole idea. It's quite simple. The whole thing's free. And I found it very, very difficult to find the talent that I was looking for the companies that I was dealing with. So to have a digital platform that is a go-to site, and you think, well, I am looking for a knitwear designer, or I'm looking for an animator, I'm looking for a product designer who can do furniture. We try and give every individual 3 areas to be found in, because it's not just, as you can tell already from these individuals that speaking, that they aren't in one area. They need to be found in other areas, and I think that's the problem with a lot of recruitment firms that I do know, that they like to house people in one area, and so we try and do that. We listen as best we possibly can with the economics that we have.
So guys, once they find you on Arts Thread, what's going to sell their company to you?
I think whenever with any interview I've had, the first thing that means a lot to me is how nice the person is that interviews you. Because like you get an instant like idea of what the company's like when you have your interview. You're going to straight away know in the first 5 seconds if you think it's right or wrong. And then when you've got to that stage, if you feel like there's something that's going to work and click, for me, I don't really care so much about what they're going to offer me, because I know that instantly I want to work with them. And then we can just see what happens. The job industry for young people is terrible at the moment. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of graduates fighting for 4 jobs maybe in one company. So the moment you get your foot in the door, for our side of it, I think it's so important to make that impression. And then you can see where you go with that, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, tagging on for that, I would sort of say, give us a break. Like, you know, let us get the foot in the door, because so much stuff is just, yeah, absolutely. Let us wedge ourselves and just, spam you with emails and no, not like that at all. Not like that at all. I despair when everything is so like CV based and application based, because I just think it's such a difficult way to present yourself, and especially if you're like massively dyslexic or something and you don't come across very well in writing. I just think if you meet somebody, not only do you as like the potential employee get a feel for whether this is something you want to be a part of, but you know whether you're going to click. You know, as an employer, you can just tell, and without meeting them, I really don't believe you can tell. So like the arts thread is great, and it's a really good way of like seeing that straight away. But then after that, meet as many of the applicants as possible would be what I'd say.
Actually, I did a section called Present Me, where you can actually meet the designer and what their thoughts are, and they can present, you know, their work and talk through it. So if you're in a different time zone, whether it be Singapore or whatever, you know, you can actually physically get a feel for that individual and their passion and everything that goes with it, because it's so important to be, you know, that 360 and not 180. You can't be flat as a pancake.
So recruiting talent is the new casting, I suppose. So whoever's hiring out there, you're going to be busy meeting people and/or watching video clips and seeing all their great work online. So I want to thank everyone and thank you for having us up on stage today.